I'm gonna wait till I get started. No, I'm bringing, I want a copy of meeting.
What? Yeah, you know, I don't any what kind. Really, not always on hand.
Here.
Misty Lowe,
Here.
Erica Helm,
Here.
Terry McMahon, here, Bruce Patrick here. First order of business, the action item approval of school board minutes for 10/14, and 10/28, public and non-public. The chair would entertain a motion to approve.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the school board minutes from October 14th, public and non-public, with the corrections. I'm just pulling up the video because I still think some of the wording's off, but it's an improvement. 28th, I have corrections.
First of all, I'd like to say that everybody that's here visiting, if you want to spread out, you can too. You don't have to sit that
We have
time.
more chairs, yeah, you can take.
You can take your chair and move it too if you wanted to get the 6 feet difference of you.
Hard to see you if you move behind them.
That's true, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, just want to let you know. Okay, with the, you said the, of 10/14?
Yes.
Okay, so you made a motion to approve?
Yes, there's still a couple of things I'm checking on the video, but it's an improvement.
Where is anybody second?
Second.
Perfect, thank you. All right, is there a discussion on it?
No, I have to listen to the video. We had Amelia go back to the video and she added a lot. You did a great job, Amelia, but I think there was a wording of something that was still off. I was trying to listen to the video when the meeting started, but it's good enough. It's good enough.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, put it to a vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Misty?
I wasn't here that
Okay,
evening, so I'll
abstain.
abstain.
Okay. Erica?
Yes.
Terry? Yes. Myself, yes. How about the meeting of 10/28?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes, both public and non-public, of 10/28/20.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have discussion on those?
I think.
You do, good.
Okay, on line 64, the superintendent has the decision. Oh gosh, I'm trying to read my writing now. The decision to act, the authority, I'm sorry, has the authority making decision to act on an executive order from the governor. And then I said, otherwise, the superintendent must call the chair. The chair decides if the situation warrants an emergency meeting of the board or can wait until the next meeting. Because
Okay.
that was from we got that from the lawyers.
In the next meeting was 2 days from that, so I decided
Yeah.
to wait.
Right.
Further discussion?
106. It said, Mrs. Henriksen asked for the report, and it should say to include the encumbrance of the health, dental, and life insurance at the next meeting. And then on line 108, Mrs. Henriksen and Mrs. Lowe asked to meet with Mr. Waring over Zoom to clarify the new SAU budget. And that's it.
Anything from anyone else? Hearing none? Debbie?
Yes.
Misty?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Terry? Yes. So, yes. We have non-public session penciled in here, and we are gonna move that to the end of the meeting, like we usually have. We just went into non-public last time to clear some things in here. We'll get back to those. So we're at the second reading of policies right now, the JLCF wellness policy.
I move that we accept policy JLCF wellness.
Everybody have a chance to go through it. Okay.
There are no changes since last.
Everybody found it? Hearing no discussion. Debbie?
Yes.
Misty?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Terry? Yes. Myself, yes, we'll pass that policy. Student service report, page 28.
Yeah, let's see. He's not here, so.
Yeah, he's not here.
And
I know he was planning to be here. I just texted him.
All right, he's running late, no problem. We'll move to the superintendent's report. Take the rocker, I'll take the rocker. I always feel I'm blocking it from everybody.
I saw that. Sorry, we're not gonna-
Wish they'd have these files too. Overhead projector. That's Kim's. I remember being so excited when we got these. Run the show, this live.
I love that. That's so funny.
All right. Thank you very much.
One of my new 3 questions. Get rid of it.
Okay, I have an action-packed superintendent's report. And we will start with your personnel report. And I apologize to the board for sending items after the board packet went out. These are hires that are related to our custodial needs for COVID. So I appreciate your forbearance in allowing us to do that. So we do have 3 nominations. They are all custodial staff. And I wish to nominate Eric Johnson, Jarrett Gary, and Mark Pena, all 3 as custodians to be paid from local operating budget at $15 per hour. And with these 3 hires, we have completed our goal of filling our custodial needs for both 2 at night and 1 in the day. We have a completely full staff with your approval of this slate. And I appreciate y'all making the increase in the wage. That made a huge difference and brought us a slew of applicants. Wonderful. So I would submit the slate for your.
I'll make a motion to approve the 3 nominations for custodians at $15 an hour out of the local operating budget. Effective immediately, I think. Sorry.
Okay. So give a second. I can do the discussion.
What's that?
Discussion?
Who seconded?
Or,
Good discussion now.
okay. I just want to clarify this. What I'm seeing is Mark is scheduled to work 25 hours a week.
Yes.
And then I have Eric and Jarrett are each scheduled for 10 hours a week.
2 5-hour shifts range. That covers our night times, 5-hour shifts at night.
Okay, so now I'm gonna ask a couple of questions. Are any of these people under contract anywhere else?
I am unaware if they are.
Okay,
You're talking about with another school system?
yes.
I am unaware of them working for another school system.
Are any of them related to any staff?
I am unaware if they are.
Okay, and, have we,
I will say this, they're required to answer that question when they submit their application.
okay, do we make them an offer, like a contract offer, or how does that work? Have they been offered the job with the hours?
They have been offered the job contingent on a board vote
Okay,
and a
so,
background check.
okay, so I guess what I'm saying is, if for some reason they don't take it, do we have to, or if they're taking their time responding, do we have to wait indefinitely for a response before we post it again?
We have to wait a reasonable time unless you put a time limit on the offer.
That's what I'm getting at, the time limit on the offer, because I think that maybe in the future we might want to consider that for
We
actually.
can do it tonight.
Yes, okay, I'd like to put a 72-hour time limit on this offer. So if they don't accept it within 72 hours, then we post and find someone else.
So accept it means they don't have to start. I mean, these
Right.
people may have to give a couple weeks
Right.
notice in their current.
Right.
So they sign a
Right,
contract.
but they can accept the offer, give their notice, and then start working.
Yeah.
My understanding is that Gary wanted to start them all 3 on Friday. Is that right?
I don't remember if it was Friday or Monday, to be honest.
I mean, they're ready to go to work.
That was my understanding.
Okay, I still want to cover ourselves, so
Now-
we can post it.
No, Debbie, these are part-time guys. Remember, they probably, school can probably have full-time jobs
Right.
during the day.
Right.
Or something else going on.
I think one's a retiree.
Oh, good, even better.
Dr. Henson, just for clarity, when Mrs. Henderson was asking those questions, the second question, you said they have to tell you if they're related to someone when they apply?
On the application in Talent Ed, I think all employees are asked that question. Is that right?
I believe so.
I believe everybody has to answer that question. Are you related to an employee of the school or a member of the board? That's a standard question in every district I've ever worked in. Really?
I personally haven't heard of that. I was just curious.
Yeah, that's a standard HR practice.
All right, so we have a motion. The stipulation that Debbie put in doesn't change the motion. It just gives us a time frame for them, so we don't have to have a change of motion. We have a second. Terry, second. Misty?
Yeah.
Debbie?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Thank you very much.
Glad that the custodian.
Yes,
And Kathy, I don't have the resignation in my folder. Who is our employee? who resigned? Right, but it's not in mine. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. We have a resignation that I submit with regret. Elizabeth Struthers, paraprofessional, and her resignation is effective November 5th.
make a motion to accept the resignation of Elizabeth Struthers with regret.
Second.
Any discussion? Terry?
Yes.
Missy?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Myself, yes, with regrets.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks. And we have a need in technology because we have someone out on long-term leave through the 11th of January. We have a need to make sure that we're managing our systems, the ALMA system and the website, all of the school-based communications that are done electronically. We also have the need to maintain our technology support for our teachers, managing our devices, all of the basic technology things. And so what I'd like to do is ask Kathy to summarize for you. We sent out in the packet in the principal's report how she would like to cover these needs.
Well, so I guess you guys all have this, correct? The full description that came through,
I haven't, I
proposal
saw
for
it in
additional.
email, I saw it in email, I didn't actually look to see. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately there's a lot of needs that we have, certainly making sure in a time when we have a lot of remote instruction and a lot of platforms and things that we need to make sure everything is being managed and is working correctly. Currently, Aaron Stanley provides about 8 hours per week for Strafford as a part of the part-time SAU person. In looking at all of the needs, which is the first page, which is kind of all of the things, we recognize that we're not going to meet every single one of those needs. Some of those things can be on hold, but the ones that we really ultimately need to make sure we're addressing, we're proposing that that we contract with Aaron outside of his SAU position. He's also an independent contractor that we contract with him. He gave us the rate of $35 an hour, and I listed it out, the maximum number of hours, the maximum amount, and for how many weeks, and totaled that up.
Do you know what line this would come from, this money, in our budget?
I was hoping to utilize our additional funds that have to be spent by December 30th.
That's the question we have. Are they allowed to be spent on personnel? Because this is obviously COVID related. Are
It's
we
my
allowed to
understanding-
spend that money on personnel?
They have to be, if they're spent on personnel, it can only be spent on work done by December 30th. So anything after that, they can't be spent on. They can be used to reimburse
Okay.
for expenses that have been incurred previous in the year.
So,
So that money would work through December, and after that, we need a budget line item? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but I'm saying that the money that has to be spent through December, the CARES 2 funds, can be used to reimburse money we've already spent on other things,
to free
which
up some
would
money.
free up some line items.
So we can look at the custodians we just hired, obviously, that's personnel, but we needed them because of the COVID issue. We did not have, we didn't have that
They
many.
went out in the local office.
Two of them would have been, we're replacing. The two part-time in the evening, those are replacing folks that have left. The other one, the daytime, the 25 hours,
Okay,
that's the one that we specifically instituted for COVID.
okay, so that's our COVID personnel. Aaron would be a COVID personnel. And then we have a stipend here. And you're keeping track of everything, all the FICA and everything else that comes out of these people's salaries.
Lynn is keeping track of it.
I don't do that.
Dr. Henson, do you have a ballpark of what we've already paid that we could reimburse?
I personally don't. That's a CFO question. We would have to have Glenn calculate for us, and I also would need chief grant administrators. He's the one who's
Right.
working directly with DOE.
Just to a certain extent, like we might just as well let go of the custodians and sorting that one out, since they're gonna be long-term past December, if we can get reimbursed from other stuff.
Right. Right.
So we will have, I think there has to be some
But we
prioritizing
need
of
to-
what we submit.
And we need to figure that out.
Yeah.
So Misty made a good point. So you're looking at the other person we had during September who we hired as the daytime person. So we're looking at his salary as well, right? Because that was a COVID related.
Right, but it came out of the
Position.
local operating budget.
Well, we
which
had to
we're
pay,
gonna-
we had to pay them now, so that's the reimbursement. We would put that whole position in to be reimbursed, we would hope. I mean, there's not that much money that we're getting back, was it like 90? What did I say?
78,265.
That goes pretty quickly. Yeah.
But what you're describing, Ms. Hendrickson, I've got to confirm all of that with DOE.
Okay.
And we're getting the rules bit by bit as they come from the federal government, because this is money that's coming from the U.S. Department of Education.
So it just worries me if we don't know those answers up front and we're just approving positions that we're hopeful might get reimbursed. In the meantime, we could go over budget. That extra custodian is not in our current budget.
Right.
So I think the board needs to be thoughtful and prudent on what we're gonna.
I agree with you.
And I'm not
As-
saying we don't need custodians, please don't misunderstand. I just want to be sure we're able to pay them.
I agree with you. So,
Although we knew coming into the year that there were going to be hits that we we likely
Yeah.
wouldn't be reimbursed for.
There's
And
an additional
the
10 million,
reality.
yeah, there's an additional $10 million available that if we exhaust all of this round, the second round of the CARES fund, we can apply, and if they'll review on a case by cases, we can apply for additional funding.
Would we be able to have at our next meeting a list of everything we've spent so far that you feel will either be reimbursed or could be reimbursed? Yeah, well, I mean,
Well, did-
what's it,
last month we did.
Glenn gave us a list of
Separate.
things that never changes. The COVID, it never changes. I asked about the death shields, I asked about all kinds of things. It's the
Would
same
you
list.
like for me to have the grants manager come to the next meeting also? We could have him on Zoom.
Isn't the grants manager just more of a data entry person?
He
I feel like we need a
manages our,
business
he manages all of our reporting, but he also attends along with the business administrator and me, all of the meetings with DOE regarding federal grants.
Is Glenn on right now?
I don't think we don't have a business administrator's report
So
tonight.
Kathy, maybe Kathy has an understanding, and I think she probably would. Kathy, you have an understanding of what we've spent that's COVID related, right?
I'm actually trying to scroll through, because I do actually have most, I'm not gonna say that I have all of them on email, but what I sent to the grants manager and what things I directed and asked to be out of the CARES money.
Right.
So I was trying to scroll through my emails and see if I could get a decent number right now.
I think that's what we need to see, sort of a list, because I think those of us who have budgeting experience here can figure out how we're gonna cover them if it doesn't get covered.
Okay, I just got a text from Nate. He is in the budget work session at Northwood.
Tell them to stay there and stay on the tonight.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
So are you saying, so can we conditionally approve these two requests if the board chooses, based on finding out absolutely for sure that these will be covered under that CARES Act money?
I'm not comfortable making an employment offer to someone on that kind of a condition. I think that you should just delay the hiring.
Okay.
But what that's going to mean is that we're going to continue to have people working overtime to be able to take care of the custodial.
Well, we're talking about the
No,
custodians, we're talking about,
Sometimes the tech, we hear more about the daily impact of what that means, not having
Well,
somebody.
I think the second, I think we're running into significant technology needs. And so I would advocate very strongly that we do both of these, specifically with the ALMA, the second one that's on your list. We do not even at this point, we have to create K through 4 report cards. And so that was something that our technology director would do. So there are things that are time sensitive that need to be done through ALMA, which is specifically the stipend piece, and asking to have the two folks that are listed, trained through ALMA, and then pay them a stipend to do the things that were not done prior to our technology director's departure.
I'd like to hold this to non-public.
I was gonna ask the same, we're like on the same page, I have too many
Like to hold
questions.
this non-public, we're getting into personnel a little bit
Yes.
here. The personnel should be a non-public.
I just.
We'll discuss that.
I have one question though. It says 10 to 12 hours at the hourly rate of 35, maximum of $20 per week for 5 to 6 weeks, and then parentheses, 10/5 to 10/9/20. What is, that doesn't
I
make
might
any
have
sense.
messed that up.
It's like, what, it should
Oh,
be like
so
around
is it
25.
one, is it the one?
That's just misleading. I don't want to go deep there.
I don't know the answer to that
It's
question.
like 2,100
Kathy,
to,
did you know what he's asking?
I know exactly what he's asking, and I'm seeing that I did not pass calculator math when I did this project. So, yeah.
it's just misleading, you know, we don't want to
Yeah.
throw big
No,
numbers around. We
is
want little
just-
numbers.
This is just here.
Yeah.
So this particular document and those numbers, so I can correct that. That has not gone elsewhere.
That was the scary part. Those numbers.
Okay.
Yeah,
personnel report, we have had, it was brought to our attention that there is a deadline of November 1st in the collective bargaining agreement for staff to be able to request, who are covered under the CBA, to be able to request one of their 26 checks. And is Audrey here? I may misstate this.
No, you're right.
Okay. They can request one of their 26 checks to be included in payroll as like a Christmas club type of arrangement. And there was no notice from the SAU back in October to go out to staff to let them know that they needed to notify payroll by November 1st. So what I would like to do is to ask the school board if you would waive the November 1st deadline so we can go ahead and process these requests.
I would make a motion to waive the November 1st deadline for notice of the payroll.
Second. So would you have a new deadline, like a December 1st? I mean, you have to have some kind of deadline.
Yes, there will be some kind of deadline. I'm not familiar enough with the nuts and bolts of the payroll cycle to know what that deadline would be. But there would have to be a deadline.
I'd like to make a statement on this then. Audrey,
Mhm.
the CBA is negotiated by two parties, the board and your party.
Yes.
And you could have always sent out a notice too from your part to your constituents that that deadline was coming up, because it was negotiated by both parties, just for the future.
Agreed, and last spring, actually last year, we had a problem with this because we went to that new bookkeeping system. And so we had the same similar problem, and at that point, Scott Runig was the superintendent, and we talked about when we sign our contracts and we have to check off that we want either 22 or 26 equal pay periods. I requested that there, right on that form, be I request a Christmas check. And he agreed that that would take care of this problem, but then we went into remote and we all signed our contracts remotely, and it just didn't happen. And so when November came around, I was thinking, I haven't heard, so I reached out and said, this is in the CBA. I know the other school districts do not have it, but we do. And just a reminder that, this is an option that's been offered to teachers, and we did not have a vehicle to tell you that we wanted to exercise this option. And I really would like to see that on the contracts that we signed in June, we have that checkbox we used to a long time ago, have the box to check off, and then there was never this problem. But since things have changed, that checkbox got removed.
I would recommend that probably in March, you bring that up to the SAU.
If you will, Audrey, email me what you just described, we'll make sure that it gets taken care of. It'll go
And I
into contract.
appreciate your assistance in this matter on all sides, so thank you very much.
Thank you for drawing my attention to it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Carrie?
Yes.
Misty?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Thank you very much. Your school board timeline, November is the month of the budget. And we are going to be looking at achievement data at the end of the first trimester, not in November, because it makes more sense to finish the trimester and then present the data to you. And the assistant principal will present the discipline data for you. And this is, again, the budget timeline. And I have been in discussion with the school board chair and with the town as to the process that Strafford follows for your deliberative session and your hearing.
But what we discussed was the dates for the meetings.
Yep.
Okay. Monica was looking at an attorney to tell us what dates. Stratford's always set our own dates.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. I do want you to consider something, and this is from the facilities committee. In your fiscal 22 budget, roof repairs are needed, and the estimated cost has been $152,000. And in talking with Gary, he has talked about there are leaks that are being repaired as they happen, and that is a stopgap solution but you need to be working toward a long-term solution, and that needs to be factored into your budget talks. And some of the ideas that the committee had were possibly dividing the work out over 2 years and doing it in stages. Perhaps asking for a warrant article, build it into local operating budget. There are a lot of different ways that I imagine that you could do this, but I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention.
So, I mean, the warrant article, I
I'd
think
like
it's
to
something
hear
that,
Sherry.
yeah,
This is what this is definitely what my opinion was. Raise the money over 2 years, not necessarily do the work. I think it would be better to do it all at once. But raise the money, maybe ask them for warrant article.
Which group is which section?
That 1989 part of the roof, the old part. If we do that, and that's a budget number at 152. I still haven't gotten other quotes yet. But as the time comes near, we'll do that. But
Which is a membrane?
rubber,
Right.
yeah. And then we're going to be, everything will be 2011 renewal.
so it would be okay to do it in 2 years? To do
Yes,
half
yes.
of it at a
We are
time?
kicking the can a little bit, but we don't have any major leaks. I mean, we have leaks, but
But I mean, do
Melanson
half-
comes in every year. We've been chasing this for a while.
I guess what I'm saying is to do half in 1 year and then half of the roof the following year?
It would be better, I think, to raise half the money
Okay,
and then the other part, and then do the whole
Come
thing.
and do the work.
okay, so then
Yes.
wait 2 years.
Because you're gonna have an
I
extra
understand.
steam if you try to do it,
I get it.
you know what I'm saying?
Do we run the risk of it going up considerably in 2 years? I mean, I know you don't have a crystal ball. but
Right. Possibly, and that's a good question, and that's, I can talk to, my.
Nobody's gonna guarantee a quote for 2 years.
No, that's why I was gonna wait, but that was a budget number that was handed to us last year from the people that are repairing roof now. And we've definitely been kicking the can, but they do pretty good. Most of your leaks are at your seams or patches.
Yeah.
And to spend that kind of money right now, I don't like it.
I understand, but I do.
It's not-
do
it's-
think
it's
that
an
y'all need
urgency.
to have this in mind
It's an
and be
urgency.
planning for it.
It's an urgency, but it's not an emergency
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. It's a good way to describe it.
But Erica, you're out. I mean, I'm
How
gonna
much are we spending for each of these patches and each of these fixes?
1,500, 2,000 a year. Okay.
Dr. Henson, before you go on, I'm sorry, Mr. Patrick, can you go back? I'm trying to still process the timeline of the budget. If you can't go back, it's okay, I don't want to mess you up, but it just notes
Yeah.
that. So I'm just looking, today's November 12th. And we haven't seen the budget or been presented a budget, so we're already behind the timeline, am I correct?
Aren't we having a budget today? We're not getting a budget today?
There's not a business administrator's report for tonight.
What does that have to do with us having a budget?
We need a budget presented to us, the board, and we'd like to have it before the next meeting.
Okay. I will do my best to get that for you.
I just didn't know if I was misunderstanding your timeline.
This was the timeline that I developed and that I presented to our business administrator.
It's just,
Is
it's
it
very
in line
late.
with what
Yeah.
he's able to
It is apparently not.
do? Okay.
Our next meeting is December 9th, so November's gone.
So we won't have a budget in November.
We've never had
You're-
it this late.
You are probably going to want to look at what the other two boards are doing, which is having a work session separately just for the budget.
Well, we probably will schedule a work session. We've always done that in the past.
And we can do the public hearing in February, correct?
We'll do it the last weekend.
We
Last
always
week
do,
again.
and we always do. Yeah.
We'll have time. We'll get it.
Okay. Yeah, we're all seasoned now.
And see, how close is the business, the interim contracted business administrator to completing our budget?
I don't know the answer to that question as to how close he is to completing it. I've been getting things day by day for all three different boards. So it's not for a lack of encouragement and expression of urgency, I will tell you that.
Let me ask this question. Has Kathy, have you submitted from the school already?
I've entered all of our things in share
Okay,
action.
so we have the school portion.
And y'all did a work session with
Misty and
Correct.
I met with Glenn to review the SAU portion. We can, so we, I guess it was a week.
I think it was a week ago. I just misunderstood.
Well, what I'm asking is Kathy submitted the school part, and we'll get our fixed cost portion. You're doing the SAU budget, we should, we will put it together.
I hope so.
I think so. I'm optimistic.
and I will call on our principal and assistant.
Love standing up.
Aaron, would it be easier if I just, is it gonna be a quick switch or?
Yeah, flag,
Okay.
flag. Stop it right now.
I could just,
Oh,
no, I could just
No,
move it.
I'll need to
Okay.
finish.
Yep. There we go.
Does that work?
That's my change sheet.
What pages? One of our pages has become not active.
Oh, wait, my computer. There we go. I know, I said, have to go back to the gym. This just isn't okay. No, I rotated them through. It's been a while
I'll
since they
second.
were here. So for the discipline report, this is from our last discipline report in October to today. What we're seeing is a lot of cohort fatigue is the term I've given it. We're talking about 10 to 17 kids who spend all day, every day together in the same room, or together on the playground, because they're not mixing on the playground either. So we do have some pushing, some verbal stuff happening. And that's primary. I mean, we're still talking, only 15 incidents in 19 days for office referrals, so it's still quite low. But I think that the constant interaction with the same group of peers is what is primarily driving what we're seeing right now.
Little families.
I was just thinking,
Siblings.
Yeah.
Siblings.
What? Yeah, done.
Okay. So I just, before we turn to the next slide, I just want to remind folks that we were tasked by the board chair to come up with options for trimester 2. So ultimately, we have 2 options that we're going to put up there. So, and there's not a lot of info. I'll talk a little bit about why it makes sense. But I just wanted to say that before the first one comes up, and I don't want anybody to go or anything. So,
I think this week we'll discuss it.
oh, was it? Okay. Okay. So go ahead, go. So in looking at, we did a lot of surveys. We surveyed about travel. We surveyed about being in large gatherings over the holidays. And we also I think we also looked into remote kiddos currently and face-to-face kiddos. And the first option that we put up was for everyone to go fully remote from Thanksgiving to January 19th. Some of the pros to that, I have my notes, but it does allow us to be proactive in that transition and kind of know well in advance. And while our building is still uncontaminated, we've had no cases, and things are going well, it allows us to have our building still be open for that remote instruction, allows teachers to be able to come in and utilize the building. Another, and I guess that was the consideration I was talking about, due to the holidays and flu season and the quarantine requirements, it will prevent a significant disruption of face-to-face and remote learning. Ultimately, what we're looking at, if we have folks that are quarantined for 14 days, whether that's, and I think certainly travel and all of those things, if that happens with staff, kiddos would come back after the holiday, we would have 10 days of remote, then we would have 8 days of face-to-face, then go on vacation, and then come back to another 10 days of remote, which seems very disruptive in terms of providing instruction for kiddos. So that was something that this would address. And I guess just back to the consistent instruction for the holiday season. And it really allows a lot of planning time for staff, for kiddos, for parents, families to coordinate all of those things. Obviously, as wonderful as I can make that sound, I can also point out there's certainly problems and issues and negatives with that. Households with multiple students might have issues with internet access, which we have heard that if you have 3 kiddos that are all trying to be on the internet, I've heard that internet service here in Strafford does not really lend itself to that being successful. So that certainly would be an issue. Childcare, we definitely understand for families could also be an issue. And then we did just looking at the social emotional well-being of kiddos, it really could increase potentially that isolation where kids are away from one another for a period of time again. So there's definitely some benefits to it. I jotted down a couple other things. Actually, I think I already said, but the one kind of tying off of the discipline data, that cohort fatigue that we think kiddos are having, it would allow an opportunity to maybe mix up and rearrange and adjust cohorts. So next. And our other one, ultimately continuing to provide face-to-face, which is what we're doing now, which is technically a hybrid model, and providing that remote option. The pros to that, and I think that one, I mean, not that you guys need me to read it too, but providing the social emotional needs of those who are face-to-face while protecting the health of those who can't be, and provides instruction for both. It also is responsive overall to the survey data that we got. It is responsive to what we're hearing from the community, that remote still be an option for kiddos. So that's certainly a benefit. Obviously, again, as wonderful as that can sound in many ways, there's certainly reasons that make it challenging. One, it's not sustainable without some kind of adjustments, which would take some time. And while some students are thriving, others are finding that they need more support from that remote environment, which can't be provided effectively with the flex day. There's just not a lot of time to provide additional support. So there are some definite benefits to what we're doing. It definitely could use some adjustments to make sure that our teachers have the time to do what they need to do, and that we're able to meet all of the needs throughout the time. So we're looking at other ways to make some of those adjustments. But really, that was the 2 options that we were able to come up with based on the data that we have.
Have you talked to us school records over on what they're doing during this time? Are they going full remote for everyone? They're keeping face-to-face? What are they doing?
I have not.
You haven't talked.
They're planning to go through without
Without
yeah. On the other hand, it's important to remember they don't have CBA. They can tell their staff not. I don't know that they have, but they have the latitude to discourage child in a way that.
Kathy, have you, the part about this not being sustainable without some adjustments, do you have any, like, proposal on what some of those adjustments could be?
We have ideas. Ultimately, we wanted to present what we think the options are, rather than us diving into either one of these models and really getting deep. We've started working on both of them, but we really thought since the board is going to ultimately make the decision, we wanted to hold up.
You pick a model and then you do the nitty gritty of how to implement it. Is that what
Yes.
I'm hearing? Okay.
So I think we've started kind of down the road on both of them. And then we kept kind of stepping back and saying, wait a minute, we don't want to put a whole lot of time into this if ultimately this isn't the direction we're going.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I looked at the survey results, and it looked to me that the parents who said that they wanted to great, who are now have remote students, chose to have 43 students come back into the building.
26 come back, 43 wanted to remain.
Okay, 26. Let me just make sure of that.
I'm almost positive.
Okay.
So with option two, we are not going down the road of requiring people to return unless they have medically fragile, blah, blah, blah. This is current model, understanding it's not sustainable and we would need to make adjustments.
I think it's hard, I think as an administrator to say that kids have to come back if parents aren't comfortable sending them. I think
It's
that's
hard
just
as a
hard.
board member, so I agree.
I agree with
Yeah.
you too.
So I think that's why you only see the two options, and there isn't one that's saying remote for only certain kiddos.
So I guess what I'm saying, I think, so there are 43 students that want to stay remote, 26 that want to come back to the building. Of the 43, I don't know if you thought about this. Are we able to do 2 multi-grade groups and 2 teachers, possibly just teaching remote? Because 43, that's like 2 classes. If you did multi-grade, where they would get the assignments from the appropriate grade level, but they would be the person that would be the communicator and the person that would check on
So that was
students.
kind of my question. I guess I just want to be clear, the role of the board is to vote on which option. Is it the role of administration on how to implement the option?
That was my understanding.
Not that you're not giving great advice, so we please don't misunderstand.
No, I just want to make sure that if we vote for number 2, that we're still having some help with the teachers not all being overwhelmed, and kids can still stay home if the parents want them to stay home.
You're not gonna be able to get everything in that, in any of these models. You won't be able to get everything. If
What does that mean? I'm sorry.
that means that we're not gonna be able to guarantee that there will be a grade level teacher for each grade level. If we were to do what you were describing, to have 2 teachers assigned for children grades kindergarten through 8th grade, there's not going to be live instruction by that teacher by those 2 teachers, simply because those teachers are not going to be able, let's say 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we're talking about all of these different subject-specific classes. It's going to continue to resemble homeschooling. There's going to be a substantial component of independent student work. They'll be able to reach out, ask questions, but we just don't have enough staff to be able to replicate the face-to-face environment for the children in the remote. That's what I mean when I say we're not going to be able to get everything that everybody wants. That's my perception, is that remote families would like to see a replication of the face-to-face classroom, and we just don't have enough people to be able to do that. It would be a facility, if you had 2 teachers managing all of the children in all of those 8 grades, it'd be a facilitated model, and it would look more like homeschooling than what we currently have.
That might have to be adjusted. If people want both, people want to stay home, and teachers are overwhelmed, we may have to have a compromise.
What else do you have for us, Kathy? What I'd like the board to do is this, is when we get public comments, listen to what the public has to say about it, then we can make some decision on it at that time.
So just because it came in as we were talking, Co-Brown has had to call school tomorrow because they just got a positive case. So that's how quickly things can change just within our conversation. So.
But I think that's different. I think if we went with option 2, if there was an outbreak and you had to pivot to full remote, I feel like that's separate from.
For sure, I guess my
Because
point
whether
is
you
we're not.
pivot a day or whether you pivot 5 days, you would still return to this model.
Right.
Yes, I'm just saying, some pointing out that some sections of remote are probably inevitable.
think
next
that's true
couple,
for
you
all
know,
of us,
some.
but we still need to pick a model, and we need to spend time on that first pond to figure out how to make this sustainable.
So if I may, that's what Kathy and I have been talking about, is using the holiday time for that, to develop that new revised model. I think it's also important to note that we did have a day last week where, was it last week?
Yes.
That we, right, that we didn't have enough staffing to cover our staffing needs. We'll have approximately 31 students who will be required to quarantine after Thanksgiving and Christmas, just from the 82 responses we've received so far. So that's 31 additional remote kids for those 2 weeks after those 2 holidays. And we will have staff that travel as well. So the attendance on those 2 weeks following each of those holidays is going to be significantly diminished.
And didn't the governor speak today?
He amended it to a 7-day with a negative test.
And that's true for students and staff, correct?
I've not heard his,
I haven't seen the details.
I haven't, yeah.
I just thought that was hopeful
But it would still
I've been
be,
waiting on the
to
report.
minimize the impact.
it would still be a full week.
When I'm looking at Thanksgiving with the survey results, Thanksgiving travel survey outside New England for students, we had one that said they were going outside of New England.
So
I'm confused.
those are respondents. In the final question are the actual numbers.
Is that what you mean, the 16?
There's percentages, and I don't know if what you're looking at right now. Breaks out the numbers of students. I can show you that. If you give me just a moment.
So 16 that it says impacted.
If oh, it is. Sorry, I think I broke that. I put them together in the pie chart.
Gatherings were not a question that we were going to ask because we have no mandates in that state. We have in our state, we have mandates about travel outside of New England, but we don't have a mandate that tells us not to be with 10 people in our state.
No, that's my error. I lumped the 2 holidays together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we only have one student that's leaving New England.
Well, we only had 76 responses from families.
And the other thing, your child may be coming home from college. We do have a lot of college students that are coming home November 20th. That are looking for work as far as subs concerned. I think our sub will increase.
What else do you have for us, Kathy?
That's it. The last slide was actually already covered with the technology.
Okay, so
Well, they won't be.
Debbie, what I'm gonna do with this, is what we would like to hear public comments, so we get down there. And we'll go back into this discussion.
Sounds good.
Nothing else for this board at this point?
Yep. I switched it back up.
Oh, you got, okay. You got something else?
Yeah,
We give you your chairs.
Okay.
Okay, in your state updates, we had talked earlier about your supplemental public school response relief fund. They're calling it CARES 2. And Strafford is going to be netting $83,400 remaining funds will go to co-brown. They are designated because of Strafford residents who attend co-brown. And I do want to request a temporary waiver of the bidding policy, that it's policy DJE. And I want to ask you to waive that only for expenditures that we make in the funds that have to be expended by the December 30th deadline. Because if we have to go through the bidding process, we will not be able to get orders out and get things in the building by December 30th.
So do you intend to place bids for items over $10,000? Because that's what the bidding policy is for, items over $10,000.
Right. I would imagine that technology may be one of our biggest line items that comes out of these funds. But this was recommended by the state that we ask our boards to temporarily waive bidding requirements in order to enable us to be able to spend these funds down.
With all due respect, I would prefer to have an emergency board meeting than to relinquish the board's ability to weigh in. I mean,
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I agree.
Maybe we can tie it to the budget workshop.
we should just, in the next few
Well, at
months.
this point, we could do an emergency meeting by itself if we needed to, so it's much easier to schedule.
I would like to encourage everybody that deals with mental health issues in their family or teachers that deal with mental health issues with their children in their classes to think about attending this webinar. And our commissioner presented this to the superintendents and encouraged superintendents to attend it as well. There are going to be a series of webinars offered by NAMI New Hampshire, which is the Mental Health Association for our state. And this is the first one, and it's both for parents and for teachers. And we have shared, I believe we've shared this on the school board social media. I shared it on the SAU social media as well. But the first one is going to be a conversation with Dr. Ross Green, who is a Harvard University psychologist. And I actually was corresponding with him earlier this week. And the reason why I think that this would be a wonderful opportunity for folks who are dealing with it is because Dr. Green treated my older of my two boys when he was a child. And he's written a book called The Explosive Child that is a classic book for parenting and helped really save my sanity. And my son ended up going through alternative school for boys with emotional behavioral disturbances when he was in middle grades. And he was able to successfully transition back into public high school when he got into the 9th grade, and he has a university degree, and he is now a law enforcement officer in Georgia. So I think that that's the kind of thing that gives parents and siblings and teachers a knowledge that there really is light at the end of the tunnel for families who are dealing with these kind of issues. And Dr. Green, I can't say enough about it. He's a wonderful presenter. We were approved by the National School Lunch Program, the whole SAU, all 3 districts, to serve weekend meals, which I'm excited about. And we do have a recommendation from the commissioner and the director of the Bureau of Infectious Disease Control. So Commissioner Edelblut and Dr. Chan have made a recommendation that school boards consider declaring the schools to be essential businesses and the staff to be essential employees. And if that were to happen, then the staff, any staff who travel outside of New England would not be subject to quarantine as long as they're asymptomatic.
However, I think it's New York, New Jersey, Vermont, and Connecticut. Anybody who travels from New Hampshire to any of those states must quarantine for 14 days. It just came out yesterday. Because we're red. Yeah, we're red.
I understand. I'm just sharing with you what their guidance was.
So that's their guidance, that's not necessarily what we.
It is a local board decision. So.
The program, how is that gonna work?
Kathy, my understanding, I don't know if you've talked to Eric about it, but my understanding is that it's delivery. It could either be done in delivery of meals to points where people could pick them up, or they could come and do like a drive-through and pick up meals to take home. Have you talked to Eric about it? We just got this weekend. We just got the notice that we could serve meals on the weekend and be reimbursed for it.
Could meals go home on Friday? Or third, I guess it'd have to be Thursday, right?
Possibly. That was my first thought, and then
Yeah.
I'm just kind of thinking,
Is that
oh my
too
gosh.
much?
Yeah, and I don't know, I'll talk to Eric about what he thinks works.
In other school districts where I worked, we've done weekend meals during the summertime. They do it they have like a backpack type of thing where it goes home on Friday, but I've also seen it done where there's central pickup points and vans full of meals would go, and then families could gather at that pickup point. A lot of different ways to do it. And then, you all have already gone over the holiday travel plans, the surveys by staff and families. And I will say the family data in the other two districts was also substantially lower response numbers and lower statements of travel. I will say that we are experiencing in the nurse's office continually hearing from children, my mommy told me not to go to the nurse. My parents told me not to talk to the nurse. So I just would say that there is a concern that we may not be getting completely honest information. And I know that I'm not saying that as a judgment. I know that there's a lot of fear that families have as to what will I do about work if the school is closed? What will I do if my child gets sent home for quarantine? I understand it. These are based on the most recent information that we have with our level of community transmission. The whole state is at substantial right now. Our school impact, happily, is still very low. We have very low absenteeism. We have had no children who've been sent home with influenza-like illness who have tested positive, and the same with staff. So according to the school decision-making matrix that DHHS provides us, when you have a low level of school impact and you have substantial community transmission, your hybrid model, which is what we're operating a 4-to-1 flex. Your hybrid model is the recommendation for your schooling. And then Aaron had information about copier leases. Do you have updates for us tonight? I know you had been working on that.
Yes, well, we signed the lease agreement. We submitted to Eric Minner at SMB in Portsmouth, and it's in his hands.
We approved it.
Right.
Yeah, we approved it last time. Good, thank you.
Did we see, I thought I heard something else about dividing kids too.
It would be for
Oh.
after January.
Oh, okay, all right.
We do like that one too. Yeah. Just takes time.
Nate texted me his apology. It fell between the cracks between him and me today when we were meeting. I didn't realize he was going to be at Northridge tonight.
A long meeting.
Don't worry about it. Okay, correspondence presentation. We have a presentation from the rec basketball request. We have a member of the public that is doing that. Okay, kind of go in the middle over there, wherever you feel safe. I apologize once again for the amount of people that we didn't expect this meeting to be as crowded as it is. It would take us time to move somewhere else. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm here on behalf of the Strafford Recreation Board for a basketball program. You guys have this from Claire Murphy. She couldn't be here tonight, so I have a few. I think it's in our packet.
Yep.
You have the packet?
Yep.
So this is
Very, very
Claire's
good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is Claire's presentation. I'm just here. She had childcare. She couldn't have anyone come to her house, so I'm just here presenting. Would love to have a program for basketball for K through 8. There's some guidelines here that we've come up with, a waiver. So, really like to get this happening.
This right here.
Yep. It's going to be K through 8 this year too, because we're not sure what's going on with school sports. So we'd like to include the older kids as well.
Our mail from people, no, I was looking at other correspondence we got from basketball people.
Anything further? Any discussion from the board?
We did get several letters that I did share with the board from different people. Andrea Meehan, Linda Bouvier. There was, maybe we had maybe 5 emails from parents, community members asking us to consider the basketball program.
And this would be strictly in-house. It wouldn't be with any other towns. So the kids would just be playing with each other. Be taking temperatures before they get there, limiting parents to one parent watching a game per child. But I
Bruce,
think it's important.
I did go to the National Guard, asked them about their basketball court, but they don't have any hoops up there at the moment. But he did say that if we wanted to bring some of those portables, that they would probably let us use the space, like practices or whatever. I mean, it's not a good option, but it's an option.
It's an option. See, our dilemma here is we're looking at 2 plans presented as if we're gonna stay face-to-face or go totally remote. How do we justify we go totally remote, bringing kids in at that point? It's a dilemma for us. I'm sorry that it comes up this year, but I mean, the board has 1 vote for a person.
When did you want to actually start?
It would be after holidays in January.
After all the holidays?
Yep.
You want to look at it?
Well, let's figure out what we're gonna do with our schedule.
Yeah. Okay. First things first.
We have 2 options that were presented.
The custodians are also on board with helping us to disinfect the balls and bleachers and everything else. So I know parents would help pitch in too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I guess on the heels of that, if there are other activities that wanted to be considered, they should come forward. I mean, we haven't spent any time talking about the pajama kids or the band kids or the other kids who aren't getting, and I think I get that sports are important, but I don't want us to forget them just because people aren't petitioning the board around it. That I think whatever decision we make for one group, we have to be willing to make it for any group that asks.
I agree with you. It's also such a struggle because in the fall, there was an opportunity to have, cross-country or other things that can be outside and physically distanced, and we didn't approve that. So to make that leap now, with the news that we're hearing of the cases rising and being substantial across the state, I don't know how in good faith we could put children in an enclosed space where they're gonna be touching and playing. Such a struggle.
What if we want to stay open, maybe maybe late January, after food season's wrapping up? If we want to keep
Short
Sarah
season.
Lodell also wrote to us. I just want to get these. I'm forwarding all the things to you. To Vera, to you, Amelia.
That was just, that never necessarily needed to be onto the agenda. It was supposed to be sort of a note to, oh, I'm sorry, no, that was last month. That our website didn't have our individual email addresses anymore. So that was, that previously was a note to whoever's running the website that all of the individual, so posting of public correspondence, Debbie is forwarding them now. So I think sometimes they haven't been forwarded, and again, I think it's all or nothing.
Well, what happened, there was a point where we were having the back to school meetings where we were getting dozens and dozens, and we would talk about it, and meetings were sort of overwhelmed, but you're right.
I mean, I think they're either part of the archives or not, so
All right, we'll move down to the committee updates, policy committee.
Dr. Hinson and I are organizing a more formalized schedule, so there's not, well, we did the wellness one already. So that we are meeting on a more regular basis. And if new things don't arise, my assumption is we'll spend some time looking to double check any ones that make any specific reference to the SAU or anything that we might need to bring up in June, July to change going forward.
We just got a new batch today from NHS.
Okay.
Required.
Okay.
We typically postpone policies during budget season to work on numbers,
Right.
because the budget takes that amount of time to do. However, if there's any urgent ones, we'll have to have those. transition committee?
Yes, the transition committee met on, let me just get this to the committee. We met on Tuesday, and we did interview 3 applicants for the superintendent position. We received 4 applications. The committee met, I think, a few days before that and went through the applications. We decided to interview 3. And you can chime in here. We were very impressed with all 3 of the applicants. After some discussion, we decided on the 2 that we felt were the best fit and strongest to recommend that the board meet and interview. And I just want to name the people on the committee. Misty, myself, Kathy was there. We had Liz Mason, Abby Jacobs, and Michael Roush, a community member. Anyway, what we'd like to do is have the board interview these 2 candidates soon, like maybe next week if we can fit in an extra meeting. And if we feel comfortable with both, we would like to present them to the community for a community forum so the community has a chance to ask them questions. We would have forms for the community to rate the candidates, get feedback, get that information back to us. Then the two applicants would also go to the school, and Kathy was going to work something out where they could either come half a day each or a full day each. You were going to work that out to meet with students and staff, where staff could, and a group of staff, a representation would meet with each applicant, ask them questions. We would get the same forms with feedback, and they would rate the candidates, get it back to us. We would meet again, review all the feedback, and if we felt comfortable, make a recommendation. So, I don't know, do you want to add anything else to this, Misty?
I would just say I was really impressed with the 4 candidates we received. I thought the 3 interviews were terrific. These are highly qualified, highly experienced candidates that were all very enthusiastic during the interview process. So it was a difficult decision for the committee to go from 3 to 2. We processed a little bit about bringing 3, but the committee struggled with that. We chose the 2 that we thought were the best fit for Strafford that we'd like to bring to the board and potentially to the community.
So I'm not going to release names now in public until we talk about this. But I'm hoping, is there a day, Misty has meetings next week on Wednesday and Thursday night. Would we be able to interview the 2 candidates on Tuesday?
Well, that wouldn't be a bad day. I was thinking that because we don't have another meeting in November
Okay.
to do
Okay.
one next week because of the Thanksgiving break after that. So can everybody make Tuesday?
I can.
Tuesday, that would be wonderful. It's just,
Yeah.
these are 2 really stellar candidates, and we don't want to lose them.
The interview would not be open to the public until after this.
Yes. And if the board feels comfortable with both, then we will say, now it's the community input, staff input, give us feedback, look who you like better, and then we'll take that feedback and we'll decide.
What I'd like to do at the end of that meeting is if there is time left at the end of the meeting to clean up any other items that we would need to do in November, that would be an urgent item
That's a great idea.
for that night.
Okay. So
Okay, so next Tuesday night.
that would be perfect. So I'll contact Linda for
What's the
Tuesday.
date?
17.
17th.
Okay,
Are
so
we asking administration to be
No,
here or is
16th.
it board only?
It's a Monday.
It's the 17th, it's
I
Tuesday.
think
17th, okay.
the interview should be board only, but I don't know if you had other ideas. We don't need everybody else. I mean, Kathy already got involved, and you will.
Right.
Yeah, it's board only for that part. Do we need?
Well, I meant, actually, yes, I was talking specifically, do we need Kathy and Amanda on
Yeah, there.
a non-typical night?
Right,
Yes, is what
right.
I'm trying to be sensitive to.
Well, we will need someone to present anything that we have that's urgent at that time, if you have something. But I would only recommend that Kathy be here that night,
Okay,
so that you can take the information back.
right. That's perfect.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
No, you're
the
not.
second, I'm not
And we
really,
can-
you're right.
and we can also
So we do
do
an EJ.
We can also do a time, Kathy, because I have to figure out
Andy, you're welcome.
how long we want to spend with each person.
Huh?
I have Jigsy.
Okay,
We need to figure out how long we want to spend with each person so that we can schedule the interviews, like we
Correct.
want one at 6 and one at 7 or something. So Kathy doesn't have to get here till like.
right.
7:45 or, you know, just sit
Good.
here.
Is there any chance I could request that I go first? Because
Well, that's what I was
I'm
also
here.
thinking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, okay,
Why don't we have Kathy from 6 to 7
okay.
and then the interviews at 7 and 8? How's that sound?
Do we need to call with Kathy? Are we gonna be asleep by the time we get over?
Could we,
Deb, I don't know, that hurt my feelings. I won't put you to sleep.
Oh, I know that.
or Kathy at 5:30?
Yeah, maybe we could start earlier, so we're not, you wanna start earlier? Like 5:30 with Kathy?
3:45?
No, I'm trying to think. I'm just staring right through you
Okay.
thinking. I'm sorry. Does that work for you?
I'll do whatever you guys need me
Can
to
you
do,
be here
just
at
let me know.
5:30?
And then first interview at 6:30?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Misty, you're probably,
Yeah, so then we can do
Karen, are you in the
6:30 and
area? Is that a
7:30.
problem?
What's
Is
that?
5:30 a problem for you?
5:30 on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm not doing anything.
All right,
No, you're welcome.
All right.
I only put
I've got
Kathy because I figured you had
Nottingham's
another meeting.
transition plan.
I figured you had another one. So
Thank you.
okay,
it
that's
can only be
perfect.
in one place at a
Great.
time.
And then
You can
interview
give-
for
you can give
6:30?
Kathy
I will give Linda that, ask Linda to set them up for 6:30 and 7:30. Yes?
And are we still meeting if they both say no, sorry, we can't make that particular night? Or are we being
I think either one of them.
Okay. Oh,
I think,
Okay.
and we'll be so
All right,
happy.
so what we have for the 17th is Kathy at 5:30 to 6:30. Interviews after that, the public is welcome to come, 5:30 to 6:30 if they want to.
I'll have Mary post it for you. Do you want it to be a work session? Is that what it would be, or a special call meeting?
No,
Or is
we-
it
no,
non-public?
we'd have a regular school board meeting, 5:30 to 6:30. And that would be a non-public after that.
So we just call it a special call
I think it
meeting.
would
It's
be,
outside your normal time.
well, it's outside of a normal calendar because we have to move the normal calendar because of Thanksgiving.
It's a rescheduled meeting.
Right. We'd likely know public comments. Should we post that we
I'm sorry, was
likely, that we likely would not have public
It
comment?
won't be public comments, so they would be too abbreviated.
Right.
All right, facilities committee.
Yes, the modular. The plumber is done, electrician is done, they're waiting on inspection. And then we can test the heaters and, Eversource, after we pass the inspection, Eversource will turn the power on. And we can test the heaters and then we can turn the water on. And that'll be that.
Everything's in place.
Pardon?
Everything's in place.
Yes, yes. And I am gonna back charge this all a little bit for some minor stuff.
Good.
Because I withheld him this time.
Okay.
Good for you.
Yep.
The 5,000?
Yep.
Good,
Yep.
absolutely.
He's bugging me.
No, too bad.
Oh, yeah. Also, on a lighter note, something I was thinking about. We're gonna need a sign for the modular at some point. And I was wondering if we could maybe get the kids involved, maybe. Maybe design. I was gonna talk to the art teacher, I haven't talked to her yet, but maybe we could incorporate the little Spartans logo and the regular logo or whatever. But maybe that would be something kind of cool. We got plenty of time. It's nothing that's be, no rush, but
A little Spartans, the one with the sword with the
Yes.
diaper.
that's kind
Okay.
of cool.
Yeah, like the superintendent's building.
I know, that one is like,
See what it's
But
like.
you know, it's gonna say SAU 105, that's, you know, whatever.
Right.
It was just it was a fun little 3 o'clock in the morning idea. I had. Some are good, some are bad.
It's like,
That's it for me, unless you have questions.
you know. Okay, so on our set future meeting dates, we now have the 17th, 5:30 to 6:30 for a regular school board session. Then we have December 9th for regular school board, December 14th for a joint board, December 23rd. We may have to move that one.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll discuss that at the 14th meeting, figure out which day would work best for that. Does any board member or administration have anything else other at this time?
are we able to possibly, I know that it's just going to be an abbreviated meeting before we do the interviews. but could we possibly have our budget handed to us at that point, our
I'd
hard
like to have it.
copy?
I will do my very best to get it to you.
Okay, 'cause having the hard
Even
copy.
at the very least, we can get the hard copy of the school.
Yeah.
A hard copy of the school was ready 2 weeks ago,
Yeah. The school budget's.
or maybe even, was it 4 weeks ago? I think it was a month ago, actually. I've had the hard copy of the school.
Wait till the school, you have fixed cost. You go around tuition rate, and your insurance quotes. Pretty much put it together. What's that?
I don't understand why we don't have the entire budget, because there's not
Because
that
we
much.
have new people at the SAU that are working on it.
Oh, that's gonna be. Thank you.
Anything else for public before we go to public comments? Ladies and gentlemen, it's your time. Public comments, one at a time. Raise your hand. Say your name and your address, please. And then we try to do everybody once before we have second comments from the same person. And please limit it to a time frame. So who's up? Sir, go ahead.
Hi, Mike Matson, Scrivener Road. I just want to also talk about the kids playing basketball, the rec league and everything. I know that discussions were in the rec department, the rec committee, having 3-on-3, also wearing masks. Those are things I think should also be considered, considering that. I also want to point out both the social and physical aspects of playing these sports. Just because we play sports in the fall, I don't think that should say we shouldn't play sports in the future. Just like as I would look at it as a mistake not to have played sports, I wouldn't want to fall back and say, geez, we didn't do it before, we should do it in the future, and continue to what I look at as a mistake, because I really think there's some great benefits to kids, be more social with their behavior, their physical and mental status. So those are the points I really want to make. But also compile that with, if you decide to go remote learning, the way we're doing it right now, they are playing sports, and that may be another reason that you would play sports, especially if you go remote. And that's my concern for me.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, sir. Go ahead.
Jake Strafford, on Park and Mountain Loop. I have a daughter who's in 5th grade here. And those options that the administration presented, they're great options. I see them as 2 separate issues. And so I'm hoping that the board takes those into consideration as 2 separate issues. And ultimately that you vote to, at the very least, keep the current status of remote learning for the kids who are remote, regardless if they have a physical or type of emotional status. I would also request that give the administration some time to come up with a different model that would benefit both the teachers so that they are not so stressed out and feeling so burned out, while at the same time meeting the expectations of those of us who would like to see remote learning stay. So I ask the board to vote in favor of keeping remote learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Audrey?
Just keeping an eye on the news going on, that there are 323 new cases just today in New Hampshire, and that Co-Brown is actually suspending classes tomorrow because there's yet another new case in Co-Brown. I think it would really be prudent for us to plan to take the holidays in a remote model and keep everyone safe, equalize the consistency of the education for all of our students. I'm not sure if you made a decision today or not about either one of those, but I know we're all kind of sitting on the edge of our seats, waiting to hear what is the board's pleasure on this particular issue. But I do think I told my children today in a morning meeting, what would you like to do? Do you want to go remote? Do you want to stay face to face? And although all of them prefer to be face to face, that's the best way to learn for them. They enjoy seeing their friends. You'd be very surprised at how many of them said, although I really like being here learning face to face, I'm thinking with all the traveling going on that maybe it isn't wise for us to be here, with that holiday travel. So, our children have a great deal of wisdom, and they do see the world. There's news out there and they're hearing it. So I do hope that you will take the remote model at least through the holidays. And maybe when we come back at the end of January, a hybrid face-to-face remote model can be worked out, so it's a little bit, it is more equitable for all. So looking forward to your decision.
She's a tough act to follow. I just want to follow up on that. I think the reality is not what we would like it to be. We'd like things to be getting better. They're clearly not. Over the holidays, families are going to get together. They should get together. And we can expect that. And are people being completely honest about are they going to travel or not? Or are people from out of state or from Rochester? Who knows where? You don't have to go far to find these hotspots. So being proactive, letting us plan for that remote instruction between Thanksgiving and Martin Luther King Day. You do a great job with that. And during that time, plan for what we can do after Martin Luther King Day. We're bringing everybody back. What's going on with the world? Because we're heading into some tough times. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Good.
Jen McKee, Carter Way. I would say as you consider the decision for online or face-to-face, speaking as a parent who has children in different grades, my concern comes from what Audrey spoke to, it being equitable though for the kids. And I think those fast swings of having to go back and forth from one platform to the other create some challenges with what they have for technology, the resources they have disposable to them in their houses. There's also different levels of instruction and comfortability from those who are instructing the classes. So I work in an environment in higher education where we're fairly sophisticated with online platforms and the tools that are used. And so when I saw the different struggles that my children went through, adjusting even to the teachers, for example, my eldest son, his teachers really jumped in there last year and created this very inclusive environment for him. For my youngest daughter, however, it was almost as if she was on her own. And so it was very challenging with their different cognitive abilities. So I would urge you to look at some of the facts in relation to how children progress academically as you make these decisions.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Just for grant, I got an email earlier this week. I think another thing that we need to consider is, I don't want to say anything was inaccurate, but I think there's a change in the numbers that are remote. I think the latest enrollment report actually shows that there's more students than what we've been discussing that are remote. So I just would like that to be considered. The November, I had requested a copy of the report after last meeting. There's actually 99 students that are remote right now, and we've been talking about 70 something. So I just want to make sure we're not using our decisions too much on the survey results either, because I think we're not capturing all of those responses, or there may have been some sort of discrepancy. Just wanted to follow up on that.
And we did receive your email, Jessica, the board, every board member saw it. I am now forwarding it to Amelia, so it's in the minutes. We have a lot of stuff.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Keisha Morse, Canaan Road. I just wanted to let you guys know, I don't think you have a complete list of results when it comes to your surveys. I don't know what the criteria was to hand these surveys out, but I received an initial survey that didn't work, and then I never got another one after that. I informed the school my survey didn't work. We all got a big email that says they're going to fix it, a new one's coming out. I never got a new one. So this survey that you're talking about, getting very low participation, I would have loved to participate. However, I never got the survey.
Didn't that happen to you
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
It must not be on some list. No.
I mean, I was on it enough to get the first one. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if the criteria had changed with the second submission, but I didn't get it. I think some other people probably
Kathy's
fall in
writing
that
that down,
category.
make sure you
Yes,
get the
she
next
is.
one. Yes, ma'am.
Marissa McCutcheon from Pasture Road. I would just like to reiterate what you were saying, Keisha, that I received an initial survey, got an email, it didn't work, got an email saying that it was going to be corrected. Never got an email back saying that it was corrected, but I heard But you could go back into the original email or, email and fill out the survey, and I did that. But I don't know that that was widely.
Okay. But that one through Kathy.
I do. I'll just add.
Anyone else at this time? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Tracy Hanson, First Crown Point Road. As a primary teacher, I know that a lot of the middle school teachers, we hear it, but I keep feeling like I have to speak up for the, at least for our grade. The kids miss so much of their kindergarten year last year, and these children need, I have 12 students face to face, and I work with groups of 4 to help try to catch them up on all of their subjects, or even one-on-one. And I just worry so much about being out of school and not having them. And I get everybody's concerns, but I guess in our creative thinking, if we end up in remote, I just hope that we can come up with some creative solutions for these little guys who will not learn well on a computer for another large chunk of time. And I get the safety and I get all of it, but it's hard sometimes to get our flex kids to do their work, and that's 1 day a week. So just in our creative thinking, I just hope we can have some kind of a solution for the younger kiddos.
So different, yeah, I agree, everything's just.
Thank you.
I do have a creative solution if we want to like entertain it just for the board. I'm Kimberly Clemens, I'm 5th through 8th in class intervention. And I think that maybe if we did K through 4 or K through 2 that comes into the building, and then everyone else is remote, to kind of limit the contact, but the little guys that can't, and that we're so concerned about should probably come into the building. That's just some kind of creative thought process immediately. That might already be out there. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've already done. All right, well then
Okay. We are going to go to non-public if there are no other questions at this time. Yes, ma'am. Good.
Sorry, Andrea Clinch, Sunny Oaks Terrace. As we're talking a lot about the consideration of going remote, in many ways it seems like not if but when. And one thing that we found on Tuesday, having the emergency remote day for middle school, is that we felt like we had done a pretty good job preparing the students that are in school to be able to handle a remote day. They all do a Flex Friday. We thought we had kind of prepared them, and our experience, at least in the 5th grade, 6th grade, wasn't as great as we thought it should have been. So being able to have some time to plan, rather than get a call one night and say, that's it, the kids are home, then we're looking at getting everybody computers and chargers, and we're starting book clubs that let's all, let them all have some books to take with them. So if we could have some time to prepare, that would be really helpful. I know that, we can't always predict exactly how it's going to go, but if we have the luxury of planning whether or not to do this, having a little time, even if it's just a couple of days to work with the kids to get them better at being able to access what we're asking them to access at home. Thank you.
Captain Cunningham Health Services, Strafford School. I'd just like to put my 2 cents in regards to the different models, not coming from an educator side at all. Health is everything, and I wish I could pick and choose when this virus is going to hit, what age it will hit, and what time and date, but it doesn't care. I am in full support of the remote, at least for the holidays, for proactive approaches as opposed to reactive. Smoothness, plainness. I think the administration's done an amazing job as far as that goes. I'm in full support of their ideas. Just 3 o'clock this afternoon, Governor Sununu switched it to traveling outside the state for the holidays, being 14-day quarantine. Well, we'll switch it to 1 week if you get a COVID test. The flip side to that is getting a COVID test so that you can get out of quarantine is not covered by insurance. The only thing that's covered by insurance is that you have symptoms for that. Therefore, people will opt not to. The average test with COVID is between $100 and $200. I
can't picture too many people doing that just to gain an extra week. So, though that sounds great in theory, logistically, I can't see that happening. My experience at the school here, yes, we've been very lucky so far, but that is not from lack of visits to my office for sure. My experience is I have several parents who are refusing or conveniently not giving me all their information. Asking the children, so what did you guys do this weekend? Just in conversation, and then having me, I'm not allowed to tell you. I've told my parents not to come to your office because I might have to go home and they can't miss work. I mean, these are legit visits. So, though I have not had a positive to date from what I know, it would be foolish to think that it's not already in this building. I just don't know about it. It is an honesty disease. If you don't state it, I don't know about it. So it's kind of hard to fight that. So I think to protect their plan as far as remote on the health side of it all is the safest for everybody and to be proactive and smooth. And then revisit it in January.
Audrey,
Just question, do you think we would make a decision this evening? Should we wait for your decision?
we are gonna discuss it. Not sure what we'll do, but it's 5 members here that'll make a decision.
Thank
Anyone else? Yep, Aaron, go ahead.
Well, there's one comment in the chat. I don't know if you're interested in hearing.
Well, we weren't taking any comments from remote. Thank you. Once we open it up, we'll do that. Anyone else that's present in the room that's posted? Okay, okay, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if in the event that you don't make a final decision tonight, when will that decision be made?
If we make it non-public, we will obviously, we will have to discuss it in public and then make that decision and report out.
You say if we don't make a decision tonight, if we table it tonight, when would be the next opportunity for us to make a decision?
Next week, Tuesday or next week, we'd have time to think about it, probably put it together by then. We'd have to get it pretty soon. Holidays are coming. Time doesn't stop for us.
Thank you.
All right, so the chair would entertain a motion to go on and
Under
everything tonight. We have, yeah, A, B, and L, please.
So I move that we go into non-public under RSA 91.
Thank you, everyone.
Any